Welcome to Day 2 of TORC Digital, the online version of All Toyota Fest. We hope you were able to join us in person for our 25th anniversary event in Long Beach on June 5th. But if you weren't, here's a peek at how things looked on the show field at 8 a.m.
Looking out for you with a powerful new Toyota 4Runner. Four-wheel drive, room for five, and an unlimited capacity for excitement.
Looking out for number one.
Looking out for you has made the Toyota 4Runner #1 in owner satisfaction. Who could ask for anything more?
Hi, my name is Eliut Zuniga. I'm from Costa Rica and I drive a 1983 Toyota pickup. When I went to Toyota Fest, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun, so many different cars. I'm looking really forward to go again when they do it after all this COVID-19 pass. The Toyota means a lot to me. It's a lot of memories, a lot of fun, off-roading, going places with my family and friends. So it's been a really special vehicle in my life, actually. The truck I have been done a lot of things with it. I put bigger tires, I re-gear my differentials, put lockers in front and rear. I love off-roading with it, going up on the trails and canyons, very rocky areas, so you need to have good gearing for it and enjoying it and have the patience to crawl. Crawl pretty much anywhere, you know. That's off-roading. It's one of the things that I love to do with it, and have fun with friends. My name is Eliut Zuniga. Thank you for seeing my truck, and I'll see you guys in Toyota Fest.
Hi there, I'm Steve from Costa Mesa, California, and I have a 1983 Toyota SR5 pickup, four-wheel drive. Yeah, Toyota Fest was pretty neat. It was impressive to see all the people that are like-minded and how many people are really into old Toyotas. It was pretty neat. One time I went, all the off-roaders and stuff and street cars. Really enjoyed it. This is my 83 Toyota pickup, 4x4. I've had it for about 20 years. It was originally white, painted it this color, put the stickers on it, or the original decals. It's not a show winner, but it's definitely a head turner on the freeway. I really enjoy it. Thanks for checking out my truck. Hope to see you guys at Toyota Fest, and I hope you enjoy your Toyota as much as I do.
Hi, my name's Maddison, and I'm from Costa Mesa, and I drive a 1986 Toyota 4Runner. So I went to Toyota Fest, and my time there was fun. I met a bunch of other people that have cars like mine, or 4x4s, and met up with them, started hanging out. Sometimes we go off-roading. At Toyota Fest, I've only been once. I took my car and I had a great time. I met a bunch of people who had cars like mine or other cars of different, models. And the food trucks were great. I remember the food trucks. They had some good food. But yeah, it was all around fun just to hang out for the day and talk to a bunch of people and get their stories on their cars. Today I have with me my 1986 Toyota 4Runner. One thing I love about it is you don't see much of them on the road. And as to what I've done with it, I've had to rebuild the engine because I goofed. But other than that, yeah, it's a great car to take off-roading, and it's all around fun. My name is Maddison. Thanks for checking out my truck. I hope to see y'all at Toyota Fest.
Hi, my name's Jerry. We're identical twins. Well, almost.
I like this 1981 Toyota truck because it's tough.
I like this 1981 Toyota truck because it's low price.
She always likes a bargain.
And he always likes to be tough.
Look, I see my sister's point. For the money, this truck is hard to beat.
And I see my brother's point. A truck should be tough, like a Toyota.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Macho.
Oh, what a feeling.
Tough deal.
Toyota.
Toyota didn't just switch over to economy cars. That's all we've ever built. For 34 years. 5 years ago, we introduced our first car to the American public, the Toyota Corolla. In its price class, there hasn't been another car around that could touch it until now. Meet the new champion, the new Toyota Corolla. We've made it a little larger, given it more horsepower. An overhead cam engine that still delivers about 25 miles per gallon. We've made it even quieter than it was, and included a new 3-speed automatic transmission as optional equipment. Added big bench seats, installed power brakes with front discs as standard equipment. The new Toyota Corolla is an awful lot of car. How do we do it? If you'd been building economy cars for 34 years, you'd know. See your nearby Toyota dealer and get your hands on a Toyota. You'll never let go.
So choosing a name for a Toyota product is no simple or easy process. Maybe sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. Here's a perfect example. Let's rewind the clock a few years. Toyota made a truck bigger than its compact pickup, and we called it the T100. You still see a few of them on the road today. They were great trucks. However, after a few years, Toyota decided it's time to power up this truck, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to put a V8 engine under the hood. We're going to expand its capabilities and raise it to another level. And so we soon realized that T100 wasn't going to communicate that with this new truck. We were worried that we would miss our customers being able to identify this as a new product. So then we came up with another name, T150. Now T150, though, after some consideration, we found was probably a little too close to Ford's F-150, and we didn't want to get confused with those guys, right? We have our own reputation to uphold. So we ditched the T150 idea, and then we had to go to the drawing board. We didn't have backups at that time. And so after a lot of consideration and trying out of different names that we would have been able to use, Toyota decided to go with Tundra. Not only did it reflect the new truck's new design, slightly bigger size and much more power, but we felt that Tundra would get us to the second generation Tundra you see here today, which in fact is a true full-size pickup.
For years, the Toyota truck has stood alone. No longer. Introducing the Toyota T100. Built from the same tough stuff as our compact, only bigger, with more room for 3 inside, and an 8-foot bed, with 4 feet between the wheel wells. Now, when it comes to Toyota trucks, the difference is even bigger.
So in the development of the full-size Tundra pickup, we were going to go from the first-gen Tundra, which a lot of folks would call a 7/8 size truck. Now we're going to go full-size. But we had some really big engineering goals that we wanted to accomplish with Toyota's first truly full-size truck. We wanted to make a lot of best-in-class claims, such as the biggest tie rods on a full-size truck, the biggest rear end or rear differential on a full-size truck, the biggest brakes on a full-size truck. However, it's not always so easy to make claims like this as one might think. And as we soon found out, there was a configuration of the infamous Ram 1500 that had a very, very optional and very limited availability of a 3/4 size truck brake kit. And it turned out that those brakes were the same size as Tundra's. So a couple things you can take away here, and that is Tundra has some really big brakes, and in fact, the other guys got to put an extra 3/4 ton size brake kit on there to match it. But in the end, we could not make that best-in-class claim. However, we could say, and we ended up saying, that no one has bigger brakes than a Tundra.
Let's introduce a few more of the enthusiastic Toyota owners from around the world who are presenting their cars here at TORC Digital. This satin green 1991 MR2 Turbo is the property of Jose Herrera from Los Angeles, California. Its subtly modified exterior conceals an upgraded suspension with a 1-inch drop courtesy of an Eibach Pro Kit. Nick Lozada of Aliso Viejo, California presents his modified 1981 Starlet. This rear-wheel drive compact features a TRD N2 widebody kit for a classic touring car racer look. This 2014 Prius, owned by Kurt Castillo of Fullerton, California, proves that even modern plug-in hybrids can spark passion. Kirk's Prius sports a coilover suspension and has been enhanced visually with JDM headlights. One of the annual highlights of All Toyota Fest is the appearance of the British Columbia MR2 Owners Group. This loosely organized but highly passionate collective of Canadian MR2 enthusiasts dates back to the 1990s and has been a part of the TORC meet every year since 2010. No one is certain how many members make up the BC MR2 group, but they include owners of both AW11 and SW20 generation cars. The club holds its own monthly coffee meeting and participates in numerous other automotive events in the Pacific Northwest, including the To the Beach MR2 gathering each November in Washington State. However, it's safe to suggest that their yearly drive to All Toyota Fest is the highlight of the group's calendar. BC MR2 members choose their own routes for their annual pilgrimage to Long Beach, with some owners making a 2 or 3 day trip out of the drive to maximize scenic beauty or to experience the driving thrills offered by a taut mid-engine sports car on a winding mountain road. Others opt to make the 1,300-mile trip in a single day. In either case, they converge on TORCfest as a group, and their corral has become a fan favorite. It's almost a show within a show. Due to travel restrictions imposed in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the BC MR2 group was unable to travel to the U.S. for All Toyota Fest in 2021, and their absence was definitely felt on the show grounds. That's why we want to highlight this dedicated band of MR2 lovers as a part of TORC Digital, and to say thanks for being loyal participants in All Toyota Fest for more than a decade. To give you a taste of the BC MR2 at All Toyota Fest experience, here are 3 selections from their group's impressive roster of cars. Duncan McKay describes his black 1991 SW20 Turbo as a work in progress, but looking at its impressive list of modifications, it's hard to imagine what work is left to be done. Powered by a late 90s 3rd Gen 3S GTE, its extensively uprated underpinnings include a hybrid 91-93 suspension, I-box springs, Coney shocks, and a Tom's lower front strut brace, just to name a few. Inside, there are a host of refinements including JDM seats and bespoke auxiliary gauges. Out back, a carbon fiber rear wing completes the car's clean, custom look. Randy Hone claims his red 91 Turbo is mostly stock, though he has upgraded the suspension with I-box and Coneys, as well as Prothane bushings. Cosmetic changes include a 93 chin spoiler and clear JDM side marker lenses, while under the hood, a stock rebuilt engine is mated to a 93 transmission and LSD. At the other end of the customization spectrum is Randy Turnbull's highly modified 94 SW20. Under the hood lies a 3.5-liter 2GR FE V6 out of a 2009 RAV4, coupled with a Lotus Exige TVS 1320 supercharger. Engine mods are too extensive to list here, but include a Snow Performance meth injection kit, Frankenstein Motorworks headers, a custom Y-pipe, and 3-inch exhaust. The drivetrain includes a JDM 96 MR2 transmission, Quaife limited slip, and a lightweight Fidanza flywheel. Underneath, you'll find TRD springs and adjustable Coney shocks, as well as a Wilhelm Raceworks geometry correction kit and an OEM power steering conversion. Willwood brakes provide the stopping power, while RE71Rs mounted on 17-inch Workmeister S1s keep the whole package stuck to the ground. All Toyota Fest would once again like to thank the membership of BC MR2 for their loyal participation. We look forward to your return to Long Beach in 2022.
There's a new game in town. It's called Putting the Fun Back into Driving. Introducing the Toyota MR2 Sports Car, a mid-engine 16-valve fuel-injected playmate designed for the kind of performance that says, "Look out, Here I Come. But you'll drive it just for the fun of it. The Toyota MR2. It's the best game in town. The fun is back.
Amore, baciami, baciami, baciami. E forte stringimi, stringimi, stringimi. Mi piace stare racchiusa in te nel tuo tepore. Sento allora che tremi un po', ti batte il cuore. Ma baciami, stringimi, non farmi più parlare. Son troppo innamorata di te.
My name's Craig Higa. I'm from Gardena, California. Pretty much grew up my whole life there and was involved with TRD probably from 1980 with my brother's friends who used to work there when I was just starting high school. The Toyota I have today is my 1993 MR2 Turbo. It was bought in 2017. Recent upgrades were Fortune Auto 500 coilovers and basically just maintenance items, new tires, calipers were rebuilt and painted, and in the engine bay a lot of the intercooler piping I've polished or had ceramic coated, and there's also a radium catch tank with XRP braided hoses, and I went a little crazy with the ARP fasteners, which they're pretty much everywhere in the engine bay that I could put them. Of the collectible type, I have two. I have a 1988 Mark III Supra and the 93 MR2. Daily driver is a Corolla hatchback, and my wife also has a 4Runner. So the Toyota, we have those regular cars. The Supra I've had since about 1996. It's a non-turbo, so it's actually kind of slow compared to the turbo MR2. It's probably more fun for me now to drive the MR2 because of the extra power, but I've always been happy with my Mark III just because the car I kind of always wanted. The MR2 was the first one, then I ended up with the Mark III Supra, and then all the work I put into it, it's just still special to me even though it's still slow, but it's a fun car. I first got involved with TORC in 2013. I was planning on showing my Mark III Supra, so I signed up for TORC, and a friend of mine, Rodell, invited me to help park cars, and I did not know what that was going to involve except getting to the venue very early. Needless to say, the car was not ready for the show, but I still came down to volunteer and help park all the other participants at TORC, and I've been helping out ever since. The wheels on this car are the Equip 05s. I'm not sure of the actual manufacture date. I think it was around 94 if I remember correctly. They've been discontinued by work, and it's a really nice style that I like, even though I cannot fit a big brake kit underneath them. I'm just gonna probably stick with the stock brakes, and I just like the look of the wheels. And then they seem to match the car because the original wheels on the car were also 5-spoke at the time. TOYOTAFEST has been a great gathering place for everything's all Toyota. The way it's set up with generation-specific vehicles, you have not just
one whole group of Supras. You got the Mark 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, all kind of separated. But then you also have the off-road vehicles. You got the Land Cruisers and the Tacomas and Tundras also show. And I really like seeing the old school Toyotas. It's really nice to see some of the old school Toyotas from the 70s and how some of them have been restored to original condition. Others have been, I guess, a resto mod restoration, but all these cars out there in one place, even though it's only for about 6 hours, but it's nice to get everybody together.
Toyota New Global Architecture, or TNGA, is a direct result of Toyota responding to an ever-increasing lineup size. And as we had more models entering our lineup, each of these vehicles had their own unique chassis engineering team. And these engineers were put under tremendous pressure to try to keep up with the development cycle of their product. And what Toyota discovered was if we change our philosophy a bit and let the engineering teams share a few chassis designs that have similar basic architecture to begin with, we can take advantage of this and give our engineers more time and space to develop an excellent chassis. So in the case of this Avalon behind me and today's Camry, they're on the same TNGA chassis, only it's just been changed a little bit in size and scope for each product and altered a bit to make the products do what they're supposed to do. So the net result of this is not only happy engineers, but on the owner side, our chassis are more rigid, the center of gravity is lower, they're readily able to accept modular type components. You'll see all-wheel drive Avalons running around today in Camrys that we didn't have in previous years. So that foundation is everything.
Hey, Robbie, stay here and don't break anything.
Okay.
Introducing the new 1974 Toyota Celica GT 5-speed. It's new and exciting, and it acts like it. The new Celica GT standard equipment isn't exactly what you'd call dull, not with 5 forward speeds. Instrumentation that includes gauges and tack, fat radial tires, optional air conditioning, even a specially tuned suspension system, all of which makes the Celica GT 5-speed a pretty exciting new car. When you get your hands on this Toyota, you'll really see how much car your money can buy.
Hey, were you bored?
No.
See the sporty new Celica GT from Toyota, small car specialists for 40 years.
The Launch Edition Supra is truly a labor of love. A lot of time and effort went into making sure that this was special and a true return to form for the Mark V Supra after being gone for 2 decades. When we saw some of the first prototypes in Austria in early 2017, it was a white car behind us that we were looking at. And as we were walking through it and looking at it, we started making some ideas of how we could make that car pop even more. And we came up with a short list of 4 things. So first, we wanted the mirror caps to stand out in some way. So you could see the car from across a parking lot at a Cars and Coffee event and know that it was special. Then we wanted the wheels to be different. We thought that a differentiated wheel would be another great exterior part for the customer to see and read some uniqueness in. And then inside the car, we wanted to do a unique interior combination that wouldn't be available to all of our other buyers in one. And the fourth was a serialized badge. We wanted the customers to know, hey, I'm part of this 1500 group, but I'm also this number within this group of 1500. So we came up with that list of 4 things. And of those 4 things, none were easy to truly bring to market. There's a story behind each and every one of them. Starting with the easiest one, the red interior. We had been developing a red interior from the beginning on the car, but we had always planned that it would be just part of the options, part of the ordering strategy. So when we said we wanted to reserve that for the first 1,500 cars in year one, we had to make sure that we had another plan to keep that valid throughout the rest of the life cycle of the car. So we made some ideas of how we could roll that red interior into the life cycle, as well as reserve it specially for year one. It got progressively harder after that with the other specs. So the black wheels were probably the next challenge that we faced. The base car has a two-tone wheel, a gloss black with a polished aluminum spoke. We took that same wheel and we wanted to do it in a matte black, so you'd have good color coordination between some of the aero features on the bottom of the car. The challenge there was we didn't have the matte black paint developed for sports car applications. There's a number of challenges with new paint development on wheels. There's high heat that's generated by the big brakes on this vehicle. There's challenges with sun fading and different chemicals that people use to clean their wheels. So to validate that takes time and it takes money, and you have to amortize that across whatever volume you're planning to build. 1,500 units wasn't a very good business case to develop an all-new wheel finish. So we had to come up with a plan of how we could use this wheel in other areas throughout the life cycle of the car too. And what it came to be was the matte black wheel was our special edition wheel. We used it on launch edition for model year 20. We used it on the A91 edition in model year 21, and it'll be on the A91 CF edition that we just announced for 2022. So when we spread the volume across 3 years and all that, those units, that was enough to get the job done and develop a new wheel finish. The next one was the red mirror cap. And the mirror caps on this car are one of just two parts that are shared with our sister vehicle. So the mirrors and the door handles are common to the BMW Z4. And our designers spent a lot of time trying to hide those mirrors and make them blend into the greenhouse and the styling of the car. They made them a matte black cap and a gloss black cap, depending on the engine that the customer chose. So when we came to design and said, we want to put bright red mirror caps on this car to stand out, they looked at us and said, what are you crazy? We spent 3 years trying to hide this particular part. So the way that we sold that to the powers that be on the design team were, number one, the story of having it stand out to our customers at car shows. But number two, we chose a heritage name for the paint color of red on the Mark V Supra. So Renaissance Red 2.0 is the only color name that harkens back to the Mark IV car with Renaissance Red. So when we decided we wanted to paint those mirrors in Renaissance Red 2.0, it brought a whole new story and dynamic into it, that there's continuity from old to new in paint colors in the car that we're going to launch the Mark V car with. So once we explained it that way, design was okay with it and they let us move forward. And then the last unique piece was the serialized badge on the interior of the car. Serialized badges have been really special things at Toyota. We've done them on a few Scion Release Series cars, as you mentioned, but we've never done it on a Toyota model. So this is the first time we've tried it on the volume brand. And it causes a number of challenges from our distribution team, our logistics team, our marketing teams, and product planning to make sure that that badge is installed correctly on the VIN number that it's supposed to represent. So we had to come up with a new process for that. We had to come up with a new process for stocking service parts. If somebody were to scratch their badge or it fell off or something like that, we had to have a plan developed. But we looked at different areas to put that badge on in the vehicle. We looked at areas on the engine cover. We looked at the aluminum bar behind the front seats. But none of those really felt right. We decided we wanted to do it right on the instrument panel so the vehicle could show its true colors to anybody who sat in that passenger seat, anybody who sat in that driver's seat. So that meant we had to make it coordinate really well. So special design, we had to make sure that the carbon fiber of the badge matched the carbon fiber of the center console in every vehicle, which took considerable time and considerable resources. To this day, it remains the most expensive badge we've ever put on a vehicle, but I think totally worth it for the joy that it brings to our customers. And every time I see one of these cars at Cars and Coffee now, it just makes me smile.
Some time ago, Toyota introduced the hard-charging Toyota Corollas. Now Toyota adds a whole new line of cars. The Corolla.
Corolla, the new one from Toyota.
An even more economical car, Corolla comes in at a price of just $16.66. Corolla at your Toyota dealers now.
Check the shape, the statistics.
Just $16.66.
And smile!
That's the feeling for a car that's been the #1 seller in the whole world, the Toyota Corolla. And here comes the new 1980 Corolla. The beautiful continuation of that worldwide tradition. A car new from the wheels up. A car that we think will take the world by storm. Look at the dynamic new slipstream styling. It reduces drag up to 9%. The new peppier 1.8-liter engine makes efficiency fun. The interior space and comfort has been increased, and the seats have been redesigned for a new level of driving comfort. The all-new 1980 Toyota Corolla. See your Toyota dealer. Sit in it, explore it, price it, buy it. Even without the available moonroof, you'll feel like you're sitting on top of the world.
And now, back to the cars and owners showing their Toyota spirit at TORC Digital. From Tokyo, Japan, please welcome Yasunari Sugiyama and his 1965 Sports 800. Yasunari is the president of the Toyota Sports 800 Owners Committee and enjoys driving his vintage air-cooled 800 around Hakone and the Shonan coast. Russ Capulong brings us his 1973 Corolla SR from Torrance, California. Russ is an avid collector of TE27 Corollas and has performed a complete restoration on this low-mileage original SR in its factory orange color. This extensively modified 1975 Celica is owned by Jake Langer of Oregon City, Oregon. Virtually every component on this Celica has been upgraded, backdated, or otherwise customized for a look that is completely unique. Kevin Hippolyte's 2018 4Runner resides in Hawthorne, California. Kevin has added a host of personal touches to this Barcelona red 4Runner, including a wealth of carefully chosen TRD components. With another take on the 4Runner theme, here's Mark Sarr's purposefully modified 1985 model. Mark fully utilizes his 4Runner's off-road capabilities in the desert environs surrounding his home in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And with one more 4Runner, here's Wilfredo Tercios of Southgate, California. Wilfredo's 89 4Runner is a stock original survivor and is a testament to the durability and build quality of these iconic SUVs.
For Toyota quality and get city smart and country tough in one powerful package. Toyota 4Runner. With four-wheel drive and room for five, 4Runner commutes, carries, and conquers all roads. 4Runner, #1 in customer satisfaction for 2 years running. Now who's looking out for #1?
Toyota.
Who could ask for anything more?
Good morning. My name is Frank DeJesus and I'm from Burbank, California. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but one of the main reasons is when I was in the first grade in elementary, my first grade teacher showed me her new car, and it was a Celica. At that time it was a 1981, and I just fell in love with it. I just, you know, she actually gave me a ride home back then when teachers were allowed to do that. And on the way home, I just watched her shift the gears, and I just fell in love from day one. So when she dropped me off at home, I told her this is the kind of car I want to get when I grow up. So fast forward, you know, to 2000, I ended up picking this up. So got it from the original owner, and I've been driving it ever since. This particular model, in my opinion, was ahead of its time. It's a 1985 Celica GTS. Now, if you're not familiar with the GTS came with a sport package, which included the sport seats that are 8-way adjustable. They're very common in the Supras. Obviously, they were designed for the Supras, and it also came with the Supra mag wheels, which are not on here right now, but that's what it came, along with the sights, the fender flares that you see on the car. That's all factory. I love the lines on the car. I guess I'm old school. I'm an 80s kind of guy, so this is the model I fell in love with, and I've had it, and I've done a few things to it here and there over the years. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. Some of the few things I did was I made my own side skirts. I added the crest of the lip that you see on the front. Trimmed it a few inches in the middle. Added the rear wing, which is made by Foha. It's extremely rare, and it was made in Austria for this type of car back in the 80s. Also the louvers, these are the lower profile louvers, not the common Chastain ones that were offered to dealer, but I just like the way it looks. They sit low profile. And that's about it. Everything else about the car is pretty much stock from the way it looks. Other than the badges, obviously. That's it. This particular model, like I was saying earlier, is the Celica GTS. These were equipped with a inline 4. It was a 2.4 liter engine. It was very common on the pickup trucks. So in essence, it was a truck engine in a Celica. The 2.4 liter is a strong engine, but wasn't as torquey. So I decided to do an engine swap with this Lexus LS 400. It's the 1UZ FE engine. I just wanted a little bit more power. and I was able to mate it to my 5-speed manual that came with the car originally. So it's one of a kind. Obviously there are more out there. People are doing these swaps. I did this about 8 years ago. I say it's one of a kind because it was one of the first to be made in a manual, because Toyota or Lexus never had a V8 that was manual. They were all automatic. And you can see some of the things I've done here. For the most part, it looks factory, and it is. I did not modify the internals. It's all stock. The only thing that pretty much is aftermarket is the radiator. For obvious reasons, I could not fit a Lexus one because it was too long and too tall, so I had to get one custom made. Otherwise, the strut bar, that's just for support, but everything else in here is equipped for the emissions as well. To me, is a special piece on the car. It was made by a dear friend of mine. It's handmade. He made it out of his garage, and it obviously has the Toyota original logo on it. So it is very personal to me, because obviously it's what I'm always holding on to when I'm driving. Other than that, I mean, the steering wheel, it's a special steering wheel as well. It was also given to me by a friend. It's a exclusive TRD Nardi steering wheel that was only equipped on the 92 MR2s in Japan. Other than that, I mean, the car has some personal touches, like the graphics. I designed those myself. Also putting the Toyota logo on the wheel caps as well. And a little personal touch here, I added an S to the GTS badge, as well as this thin blue line that I added on here. Obviously it means something. It actually means a force which stands between violence and destruction, keeping the peace in a civil society. That's what the thin blue line stands for. So there you have it. Okay, about I would say over 15 years ago, I was introduced to TOYOTAFEST, or Toyota Owners Restoration Club, and I don't know, it just sparked some ideas. I said I want to check it out, and I was invited to this car show out here in Long Beach, and that's when I fell in love with the whole concept of having Toyota appreciate these type of cars. As a daily driver, I was always a Toyota guy, just because of the reliability, and just coming to TOYOTAFEST and checking out other enthusiasts that are into the same type of vehicles, I just fell into place, and I felt like I belonged to something.
So let's wind the clock back about 20 years, and what you would see then was very primitive systems, if you will, that were based on analog signals, and they were very annoying to some drivers at some times. Thus the name Nannies came out. However, when you move forward a few years with the advent of digital wheel speed sensors, these systems became much more sophisticated and much more capable. Case in point, traction control got better. We were also able to add to that in some models a feature where we would have an automatic limited slip rear differential effect, or ALSD, which was a modified traction control that only monitored the drive wheels, which was kind of a step between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. It gave the drivers an intermediate place to go before they would engage four-wheel drive. In addition to that, for four-wheel drive enthusiasts, we developed active traction control, which is an off-road traction control system. and it had a specific programming from engineering for each particular model that it was developed for. So the engineers would go out and test and take their best shot at what they thought the most typical conditions would be for that model, and that's what they would use. However, in testing, we found that in some conditions, that system actually was a bit of a detriment still. If you got vehicles like we tested Sequoia one time in the sand dunes, and we would engage our active traction control system, and what we found is it actually hindered the truck's progress because it would reduce wheel speed too much for the sandy conditions. So we took that back to engineering and said, hey, what can we do about these type of situations? Didn't take long for Toyota engineers to come up with today's multi-terrain select system, which is a driver customizable system where the driver can engage it and then turn a dial and select or tell the system what type of terrain to operate for. So nowadays, a driver can see a mud bog in front of them or sandy stuff in front of them and engage the mud sand mode, and it lets them have a ton of wheel spin, which allows them to keep moving in these really sticky conditions. However, maybe the terrain changes now and they're looking at a rock face. They can go to rock mode and it very much limits wheel spin, which helps them to get up the rocks without damaging their vehicle. So it's a very customizable system that takes advantage of this latest and greatest technology. Moving on, we also developed a system called downhill assist control, which regulates the vehicle's downhill speed using the brakes at individual wheels. So not only does it control vehicle speed, but it enhances driver control, and all the driver has to do is just steer the vehicle, and it will regulate that and help them stay on their path. Now we took that to engineering and said, hey, this is great, can we do more? And the engineer said, yes, how about we control the throttle as well and let this vehicle not only descend under control, but ascend under control. And so we now have what we call today crawl control, which we liken to an off-road cruise control system. So in the end, if you go back 20 years, you've got some primitive stuff, but today now, with our modern systems, you have driver assistance systems here that actually can help enhance the skills of many drivers out there, especially in foul weather conditions or off-roading situations.
What happened to my Badgermobile?
Cut, hold it. Badger man, that was changed to a Toyota Corolla yesterday.
A Toyota Corolla? Why?
It fits the budget
better. What was that?
Badger man, it fits your character better.
Oh, you're kidding!
Well, now, you're supposed to be the most intelligent human in the world, right?
Right.
Well, there's the Toyota Corolla, unitized construction, a chassis that never needs a lube.
Yeah.
It has front disc brakes, reclining bucket seats, nylon carpeting, tinted glass, right?
Right.
And all that for just $17.98, right?
So?
So, it just happens to be the most intelligent buy in the world.
Oh.
And it fits your character.
Oh.
And it fits the budget.
I knew it. It's the budget. That's all you're interested in, the budget.
You can't argue with $17.98, sweetheart.
Now,
Okay,
look,
place
hold it down. Wait, let me down. You don't care about my image? I'm going to call my agent. You just don't care. I care. Nobody else cares. Oh, I'm so strung up. This new Toyota Celica GT is filled with all kinds of extras you don't have to pay extra for, like a gas-saving 5-speed overdrive transmission, an AM/FM stereo radio, and over 30 other standard features, all in a very well-made car. That's right, the reclining bucket seats, those styled steel wheels on fat radial tires, the power front disc brakes, and even the tinted glass won't add to your financial worries, because they're all standard equipment, not options. Look around a little and try to find all that without paying extra on other sporty cars in its class. You see, Toyota wants you to compare. And if you need more facts, you can get them in this small car bargain hunter's guide, prepared by the editors of Road and Track magazine, and available free at your Toyota dealers. When you compare the Celica GT to other sporty cars in this book, you'll find that you'll either have to pay more or you'll get less.
Hi, my name is Russ Capulong from Torrance, California. This is my 73 Toyota Corolla SR. Restored bone stock, all original, restoration. Got involved with TORC, Toyota Owners Restorers Club, way back in the 90s. My Toyota's my favorite fleet of cars, Celicas, Corollas, and been friends with a lot of people. Bought a lot of parts from Cabe Toyota, good price, very rare parts, and very friendly people. For me, Toyota Fest is gathering of one of the best vehicles made in the world, and basically it's celebrating and showing off the quality of the models of Toyotas. Basically it's a 73 Toyota Corolla SR. Production was only 5-6 months, and they changed to a 74. And the unique parts on this are like the fender flares and the round signal lights. It's natural orange color. Okay. The fender flares, they're all metal. It came only on the SRs, and in 74 the SR5. And I was able to get this like new old stock. And let's see, this one, round turn signals, and of course this one, very hard to get. Can't find a new one. And this was a frame-up restoration. The interior is also original. Was able to get the twin tower dash. That's it.
When the car was getting released, Toyota had this idea for SEMA to try to bring back some of the styling cues from the A80, or what we call the Mark IV. That was the car that really made Supra famous, right? That's the Fast and the Furious days, that kind of thing. And so you do notice it has amazing MK4 or Mark IV Supra headlights, Supra Mark IV taillights. It has the basket handle rear wing that actually came from an A80 that then was shallowed up to fit in the body of the actual Heritage Edition, what would become the Heritage Edition. And it's interesting because whereas the Mark IV was a GT car, this is a now much smaller car, so they had to shallow that up. But by far for me, as a racer and as someone that builds race cars, what I appreciate most about what Marty Schwerter and the Motorsports garage team did from an authenticity standpoint was they did a few things by hand. And one of those things that's categorical about what they did by hand was Tada-san was always talking about the fact that there were these vents that were fake but could be opened up if you wanted to, if you needed to, but from the factory they weren't functional. But he said that they were in the right locations. And so indeed, Marty and the team by hand opened up every single one of those openings to either evacuate air or feed that ambient air into something that needed it for cooling. That is on the hood, it's in the front bumper, it's in the side of the doors. If you open up the door, you can see where it feeds. That's a really amazing detail that you don't see from afar, but if you look up close, you'll see all the work that went into that by hand. The second thing that I find to be a major kind of engineering accomplishment is the fact that this car in the rear has a cantilever, or what we call a push rod suspension. And this is a type of suspension that you'd find on an open wheel car, like a Formula One car or an Indy car, where you don't have fenders and you're trying to take those suspension assemblies and get them out of the open air for more aerodynamic efficiency. You don't have fenders to cover them up. But you ask, well, why would you do that on a production-based car that does have the fenders? Doesn't make any sense. It's a lot of work. The suspension doesn't necessarily work better per se. But in this particular case, Marty and the team wanted to fit the biggest wheel and tire they possibly could. So the innovative way to do that was, rather than trying to clearance little bits of things and roll fenders and find different ways to do that, they basically took the suspension out of the space where the wheel and tire needed to occupy, moved it into an entire functioning pod that actually fits in the trunk, in the hatch area of this Heritage Edition Supra. And it's probably the only car that, when it was at SEMA, was on the show floor that was production based, that had a cantilever or push rod rear suspension design.
This is fullback Walt Garrison, 6'1", 205 pounds. Halfback Dan Reeves, 6'2", 202. Halfback Calvin Hill, 6'4", 218. Quarterback Craig Morton, 6'4", 215. This is the Toyota Corolla four-door sedan. Even though it's a low-priced economy car, it's still big enough to put a backfield in motion.
Introducing a Wonder Wagon.
Wonder what it is.
Introducing the new 1984 Toyota van. You'll wonder why no one ever thought of it before.
I wonder if it's a car. I wonder if it's a van.
It looks like nothing you've ever seen before. It can seat 7, sleep 4, or carry 1,500 pounds of apples. You can even get an ice maker. And 2 sunroofs.
I know, it's a condominium.
Make no mistake about it, the new Toyota van.
Oh, 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 what a feeling. Toyota.
So this is my 1980 Toyota Corolla. Out of all the Corollas ever made of this model, the 1980s, the only ones with the round headlights. So 81, 82, 83, they all have the square headlights. The wheels that I have right now are the 1974. They come from a 1974 Corolla with the white band tires. And so we chose this setup because we were more into the original look and keeping it like stock and original. Not so much drag racing. My little flair of drag racing that I wanted to put on the car were the chrome bumpers in the front. Those actually came from my father's race car, and so I feel like that's something that is my favorite on the whole entire car. And then moving on the inside, moving on the inside, we replaced all the door panels and the dashboard. The door panels were actually from my neighbor across the street. He had his own Corolla too. So we went and picked it up from his house, and then we just installed it. And then my original dashboard had a lot of cracks in it. So that's why we also went and replaced it for a better one. And then my interior was done at Lord's Way Upholstery in Gardena. And so again, we wanted to keep it more original. So that's why we chose the color, this blue color, and then the baby blue stripes going down the seats. And then so also the chrome bands all across the car, these are original. And so most of the time when you're looking for these cars, a lot of them don't have this chrome band. So we were very fortunate to be able to find them and then install it, and then of course, restore it over time. And then also we have original wipers, just restored and painted for a more original look. And then on the inside, the console is actually from an older 1970 Corolla. So we took out the original one and put an older model because it has all the little notches and crannies to put stuff in it. So I wanted more space for that. And then also we have original AC working nice and cold for when you go cruising. And yeah, that's it for the inside, pretty much. So everything on the the inside is original, stock motor, stock engine, everything. When we first bought it, me and my father went up to Palos Verdes, everything wasn't working, wasn't starting, it didn't have no carburetor. So my dad hooked it up to the trailer, and then when we got home, we all started getting to work. And just within an hour, he was able to start it and everything. We took it down the street, and then from there, it was just little by little restoration, do a little bit here, a little bit there. Recently, at the beginning of the pandemic, we sent it to go paint, and so during the beginning of COVID, we just started putting it back together, polishing, cleaning, and within a few months, it was able to go on the road. I just want to thank my dad for, being able to give me the opportunity to see him work and to teach me new things. Growing up, I never thought that I was able to, I guess you could say, join the club and have one of my own. Growing up, I was able to see Papa, my brothers, our friends, our family, go down the track or go down the street in some of these amazing cars. And so to be able to have one of my own is just such a treat, and I'm just really grateful for it.
Must be out of my mind. You gotta get a car that makes sense.
You asked for it. You got it, Toyota.
The two-door Toyota Corolla sedan is probably the most sensible car in the world. Corolla makes sense at the gas pump. Corolla makes sense on the sticker price. Corolla makes sense if you ever decide to sell it, which frankly makes no sense at all. Toyota, it's just good common sense.
You got it, Toyota.
Want a new way to get your kicks?
Now it goes to St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City. Looks
the Toyota MR2.
You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico.
Mid-engine, 16 valves, two-seater.
Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino.
Very affordable Toyota MR2.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
It's a kick.
Who could ask for anything more? Toyota.
There's definitely a story there, and it really starts with the name of CHR. And CHR stands for Coupe High Rider, a vehicle concept that had the handling dynamics of a coupe, the high seating position of an entry SUV, as well as the cargo and people carrying capacity of a hatchback. And we took that name throughout development, and every decision that was made went back towards what's the definition of this product. And our chief engineer, Hiro Koba, was a really passionate guy. He was a race car driver, a gearhead, and he really put his heart and soul into getting the dynamics of this product right and interesting and different from our competitors. A lot of our other competitors in entry SUV aren't necessarily fun to drive. They're fairly simple. They use basic suspension designs and low-cost components. But Koba-san invested into a rear multi-link suspension. He used Sachs dampers, things that are very expensive. And as we were looking at the vehicle spec sheet in product planning a couple of years before launch, we said, well, Koba-san, there's no moonroof on this vehicle. All of our competitors in the segment have it. It's something that could add to our vehicle profitability. Why don't we have that? Why won't you develop it? Koba-san looked at us and he said, I have to preserve the concept of how this vehicle will retain coupe-like handling and dynamics when it gets to market. And adding a moonroof would put about 80 pounds of steel structure in the roof, and glass and aluminum, and motors and wiring harnesses that would raise the center of gravity up and would just erode the fun, spunky character of the vehicle that he put his heart and soul into developing. So that's the story of why we didn't have a moonroof at launch, and still today, 4 years after, there's no moonroof on CHR.
That just about wraps up day 2 of TORC Digital. But before we go, please enjoy this special Toyota Motorsport Heritage video presented by Toyota U.S.A. Thanks for joining us, and see you tomorrow for day 3 of TORC Digital, all TOYOTAFEST online.
Motor racing. In this all-American sport, Toyota has emerged as a major sponsor and relentless competitor. 1975, Toyota entered the motorsports arena, introducing a Toyota Celica as the official pace car for the first Long Beach Grand Prix. This annual classic, which Toyota has proudly sponsored since 1980, has become a fixed tradition in the auto racing scene. Another tradition is the Toyota Pro Celebrity Race, renowned for attracting top-name celebrity and professional drivers such as Matt LeBlanc, Patrick Stewart, Cameron Diaz, and has been a racing tradition for a quarter of a century, raising more than $1 million on behalf of children's charities. 1983, Toyota joined forces with racing legend Dan Gurney and his All-American Racers, and the Celica hit the IMSA Camel GTU Pro Racing circuit. By 1986, Toyota and Gurney had moved up to the IMSA Camel GTO class. For the next 3 seasons, Chris Cord, Dennis Ossie, and Willie T. Ribbs drove their turbocharged Celicas to 15 race wins against the biggest muscle cars Detroit could throw at them, claiming the manufacturers and drivers' championships in 1987. '89 proved to be a significant year that saw the Toyota All-American Racing Team moving to IMSA's elite GTP class. All-American race drivers P.J. Jones and Juan Fangio relentlessly marched toward victory, the hard work paying off in 1992 and 93, as Dan Gurney and his All-American Racers swept the manufacturers and drivers' championships, winning 17 of the final 18 races. 1989 was a big year in another series, as Toyota Motorsports became the title sponsor and engine supplier for the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the ongoing premier open-wheel training ground for some of auto racing's most promising young drivers. Of course, the pavement is not the only realm contested by Team Toyota's racers. Since the early 1980s, Toyota drivers have thrilled capacity crowds in stadiums and remote desert landscapes alike. Such off-road luminaries as the legendary Ivan Ironman Stewart and Rod Millen reigned supreme. From 1983 to 1994, Toyota won the Mickey Thompson Championship Off-Road Grand Prix Manufacturers Cup for 11 years and 9 Drivers' Championships. In the desert, Toyota took 27 victories, 7 championships, 11 Baja 500, and 2 Baja 1000 victories. Rod Millen and Toyota also won on tracks that reached for the stars. In the Rocky Mountains, Toyota's Rod Millen in a 1,000 horsepower Celica captured the 1994 Pikes Peak in a record run up the 12-mile circuit in 10 minutes, 4.6 seconds, a record he still owns today as part of a grand total of 5 unlimited class victories. In 1996, Toyota entered the top tier of American open-wheel racing, the Championship Auto Racing Series, by building a Champ Car engine. The competition from Ford, Mercedes, and Honda was fierce, and Toyota struggled to compete. Throughout the 96 and 97 seasons, drivers Fangio, Jones, and rookie Jeff Krosnoff drove well in difficult races. Tragically, in 1996, Krosnoff was killed near the end of an event in Toronto. Despite pain and grief, Toyota carried on, focused more than ever on the march toward the podium. In 1999, Toyota won its first pole, an indication that things were beginning to shift. In 2000, Toyota cars won 5 races, followed in 2001 with 6, and in 2002, Toyota-powered vehicles won 10 races en route to taking both the Drivers' Championship with Cristiano da Matta and the Engine Manufacturers' Championship. In 1997, Toyota again showed its truck power in off-road racing, when drivers Johnny Greaves and Jeff Kincaid competed in the Championship Off-Road Racing Series in their Toyota trucks. Toyota trucks have since won 7 straight core drivers' titles and 7 straight manufacturers' titles. In 2002, Toyota again made history by fielding the first foreign manufacturer-supported funny car in NHRA competition. The Toyota Celica funny car was driven to a 5th-place finish overall by Bruce Sarver for Alan Johnson Racing. Also in 2002, in the NHRA Summit Sport Compact Drag Racing Series, Matt Scranton made history when he became the first person in import drag racing to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier in his Turbonetics Toyota Celica. Toyota-powered vehicles took Street Tire, Pro, and Pro V8 championships that year, and in 2003, the Sport Compact Class Championship. 2003, Toyota dominated its inaugural IRL season in the IndyCar Series by winning everything that matters, the lion's share of the races, including the season opener in Homestead, the Indy Japan 300 in Motegi, and the greatest spectacle in racing, the thrilling Indianapolis 500. Toyota also won the Engine Manufacturers Championship, and Toyota pilot Scott Dixon capped the season by winning the 2003 IndyCar Drivers' Championship. And Toyota is definitely making its presence known in NASCAR. Toyota driver Robert Huffman is a racer to be reckoned with. In 2003, driving the number 37 Celica, he won the Goodies Dash Series NASCAR Touring Championship, Toyota's first NASCAR championship. And in 2004, Toyota vehicles will be showing some serious muscle in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. February 2004 will see the Toyota Tundra race truck make its racing debut as it burns up the track at Daytona. Toyota Motorsports. Its history stretches out like the very tracks and roads Toyota races upon. An arduous route, long with challenges, exhilaration, tragedy, heroes, and victory.